What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to do sort of like a Q&A. I get all sorts of emails, messages all over the place, tweets, all sorts of things where people a lot of times are asking me questions, and it's been a long time since we've done a Q&A, so I want to take a couple of those questions. I've been getting a couple of the same type of questions, more so as of late, and I want to spend some time in this video addressing some of those questions. I guess the shortest way I could have said that was we're going to be doing a Q&A today. Now, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in this video is going to be serious stuff. I'm going to try not to crack so many jokes. I'm going to try to keep this serious, but don't hold me to that, folks. I am a comedian. Or at least I think I am. Probably not a very good one, though. You're laughing right now. I know you are. We're going to keep this thing upbeat. We are. But you know, there's a lot of different people that rock with After Prison Show for a lot of different reasons. Whether they've been locked up themselves, dealt with addiction, any type of obstacles, depression, maybe they're in law enforcement, maybe they're lawyers, maybe they're just people who are overtly interested in prison and the judicial system, or potentially what is the very last thing on the list of why anyone would watch this channel, maybe it's because of me. I'm blushing. I'm sorry. Let's get into this. Again, I've been getting all sorts of messages. I've been getting a lot more as of late in relation to one particular topic. And what that is relationships in prison. Dating a prisoner, more so to speak. We're not going to talk about prisoners having relationships. No, not in this video, we're not. Save that for another day. Recently, I've gotten messages from two different females who are both in a similar situation. They both have been dating a prisoner. Not the same prisoner. God, I hope not. That would be a lot of drama right there. But they both have been dating prisoners. And I know a lot of you out there might be hearing this thinking to yourself, why would anybody want to date a prisoner? Like, you know what? Prisoners, they're people too. And you can definitely find love behind bars. It happens. As funny as I could make that, as many jokes as I could cast out there and try to reel them back, I can make a lot of jokes. Oh, you can most certainly find love while serving some time. And we ain't talking about outside the bars, folks. It happens right there on the inside. Whether it be with another prisoner or whether it be with a staff member. It happens, and it happens probably a lot more than you think. But more so than that, you know, prisoners, they are ingenious. And even while they are completely cast away, cut off from society, they've got the telephone, they've got mail, they've got prisoner dating websites, they've got their bunkie who might got a sister, who's got a friend, who's got a cousin, there's Facebook, Snapface, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, there's social media. Not only has social media connected the entire world, but it also makes it easier for prisoners to get in contact with people as well. And so, you know, somebody dating a prisoner or a prisoner having a girlfriend who we met while serving time, who ain't never even been a part of the prison system, is going to be a lot more common of a thing than you might realize. And with the messages that I've gotten from these two separate females, I want to address both of these female stories while also keeping them anonymous. It's nobody's business who they are, and trust me, it could be, you probably know somebody who's right into a prisoner, who has dated a prisoner, who has dated a convict, an ex-con, a felon. We people too, folks. I'm a person. Talking about you just an ex-felon. This ex-felon's got feelings, just like anybody else who's serving time who might be trying to act like they ain't got no feelings while locked up. They got some feelings. But the first woman who sent me a message, she didn't really go into detail about anything in relation to the relationship she's having with this prisoner. She writes to this guy. She probably talks on the phone with this dude. I don't know how much time this guy is serving, but what she was really trying to emphasize in her message was, you know, this is something completely new to her. I don't even know how she met this guy. It could have been any number of different ways. Maybe she knew this dude, or maybe she had no idea who he was before, however she would end up meeting him. So with the fact that she primarily focused on, you know, having no idea how to go about having a relationship with a prisoner, you know, I just want to address a few things in relation to this. And you know, some of these things, they might be hard for people to hear who are females who are having relationships with, you know, some dude who's locked up, or maybe a dude who's having a relationship with a woman who's locked up. You know, I don't know how often that takes place. I'm quite sure it happens just as often as a woman dating a male prisoner. I'm pretty sure it does. But the first thing that I want to say about this is, you know, hopefully this dude doesn't have an exuberant amount of time. And if he does, and that's your soulmate, and that's who you're going to ride with, and then can't nobody tell you anything differently. If that's where your heart's at, you know, there's a saying that goes, the heart wants what the heart, something along those lines. Can't nobody tell you nothing about that. I hope, though, that this dude does have a release date, and it's within at least the next few years. But it definitely can be hard to try to hold it down for a guy who's locked up, to try to be that ride or die chick. You know, this is going to entail a lot of things, and the biggest thing it's going to entail is support. And when I mention support, I really mean money. Now, by me mentioning all of that, let me throw this little tidbit in here as well. I've seen guys who have relationships with chicks out here in the free world, guys who have relationships with chicks while they're serving time that they met while they're serving time and didn't know anywhere else prior. And some of these guys, a very slight few, will tell the women that they're dealing with, hey, look, I don't need any money. Don't worry about me. And if they're saying this, then hopefully they've already got it figured out. They're already doing their time. They either got a really good prison job, which is definitely going to be hard to find, but to some degree they do exist, or they got a hell of a prison hustle. But 99% of the time, support for a guy who's serving time or a woman is going to come in the form of money. Phone calls, stamps, hell, even electric stamps now. You know, now these facilities are changing more towards email, and anytime you write an email to a prisoner, you gotta attach a stamp with that, and that could be upwards of $1, 50 cents to $1. It can get expensive. Commissary, visits, gas so you can go visit him, maybe hotel expenses if he's that far away. It's not an easy thing trying to hold a guy down while he's serving time, and it can definitely get expensive. And it can also get stressful as well. You know, you ain't got no idea what this guy's going through while locked up except for what he's calling home and telling you about. Sometimes he might call and he's in the worst of moods. Maybe he done got in a fight. Well, if he got in a fight, he's probably not calling because he's probably in the hole. There might be times where you don't hear from this guy for weeks on end, maybe even months because they're dealing with some sort of a lockdown, or maybe he's locked down. And the overall stress from a situation like this is definitely going to take its toll. So the one thing that I want to say as I try to move through this is, you know, having a relationship with a prisoner, it's going to be a tough thing, especially if they have to serve a lot of time. It's going to be stressful and it's going to be expensive. And I want to throw this in here as well, and I wouldn't be right if I didn't do this. I'm just going to keep it 100. You know, a lot of guys, they find these relationships. They're looking for relationships, or they say that they're looking for relationships, but it's not really love that they're looking for. They're looking for money. They're looking for financial support. And I'm not saying every single prisoner is like this. I'm not trying to cast a black eye or some sort of dark cloud over guys who are serving time who've got ads on these pen pal websites or on Facebook Live because they got them a contraband cell phone. I mean, however it might go. But in more times than not, and believe me when I tell you, because I dealt with it personally myself, I mean, I was legitimately a pen pal kingpin, getting guys pen pals through the pen pal that I had. So I've got quite a bit of experience with this, and I'm trying to tell you, in more times than not, guys, they just looking for support while they're locked up. And when they get home, you ain't got no idea what's going to happen. You know, I'd like to say that when they come home, you guys are going to get married, you're going to carry on a long relationship. But the fact of the matter is, you know, if you meet somebody while they're serving time and you don't know the damnedest thing about them out here in the free world, you've got no idea what that person is like when free. Because believe me, a person is going to be a whole world different from serving time to out here in the free world. But mentioning all of that negative stuff, I do want to say this as well. I'm not trying to deflate any tires or balloons or any hopes, and I also don't want to give you a sense of false hope. So to try to make this a little more positive, I will say, you know, I've seen guys who have met someone while locked up, get released, and then carry on a relationship with that person in the free world. I've seen guys meet somebody while locked up that they never knew from the free world and then get married. And I know I'm playing like the devil's advocate here. I know I'm playing like the bad guy, the villain. Joe, you're a prison activist. You're a prison spokesperson. You know, you shouldn't talk about the prisoner so bad. I'm not trying to talk about the prisoner so bad. Again, like I mentioned, you know, you do got good prisoners. The main point is, though, you know, if you think dating out here in the free world is hard enough trying to find that Mr. Right or Mrs. Right or whoever, it's only going to be that much more difficult when it comes to a guy who's locked up. You know, there's a saying that goes, you know, all the good guys, you can't find no good guy out here in the free world because all the good guys is locked up. That is absolute BS. That ain't true at all. Go check out eHarmony. It might cost you $4,000 to find your soulmate, but you know what? There's good people out here. I just tried to throw in a little joke that might have been in poor taste, but that's my opinion on the situation. And it's also an opinion that comes with quite a bit of knowledge on the topic. And with that, I want to share this other woman's story who wrote me, who was in a similar situation that kind of validates the points that I was making. But this woman wrote me an email, and she told me a lot more about the situation that she was in. Tells me her name. She says, I don't really want to share a lot about me personally other than how your YouTube videos have affected me and why I'm writing this to you. She says, I'm dating or in a relationship with a man who is on death row in Alabama DOC. He has been locked up for over 20 years now. He and I have been together for over 3 years now. We were engaged to be married, but 6 months ago, I broke that off. He is facing the death penalty and will not be getting out. The reason I broke it off is a lot of things added up, but basically, he's a drug addict. So obviously, without her saying as much, because she won't go on to say what I feel has happened, this guy has definitely been taking advantage of this woman and doing so in a very financial way. Probably calling, writing, saying that he needs money for this or that. And somewhere along the lines, she realized that this dude ain't doing nothing but lying and potentially getting high, which I don't know how that's really possible considering he's on death row. And she would go on to share a lot more about her situation, which I don't want to put it in this video. But again, I just wanted to share this story because it kind of emphasizes the point that I was trying to make. Look, it's not a horrible idea to get involved with somebody who's locked up serving time. But you do need to approach that situation with caution. I'll say this, and this is definitely speaking from experience and what I've come to believe. A lot of women who get involved with guys who are serving time have dealt with traumatic experiences in their life, all sorts of really bad things. And not every woman, but I've definitely seen a lot of women exactly like this. Whether it's because of men out here in the free world have been treating them so badly that they believe getting involved with a prisoner, well, at least he can't cheat on me because he's locked up. At least he can't go nowhere because I know exactly where he's at. This may sound funny and this may sound crazy, but I don't mean this to be any kind of a joke. This is for real. I've seen this personally. I've seen this from guys that I've associated with in the pen pal relationships that they've been in, the ones that I've been in myself. And it's sad. It's really sad. Because in a lot of cases, those women, they end up getting taken advantage of. So just be careful. That's what I want to say. Just be careful. And if you feel like a situation's not a good situation, don't deal with it. You got to listen to your gut intuition. And in most cases, that's not going to steer you wrong. I want to move on. I've got some other questions. I got a guy by the name of Peter over in Australia who sent me an email. He was asking a couple of different questions. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to all of these questions, but these are some very good questions that I want to include in this video. And I want to kind of change the course and direction of this. So I hope you guys will rock with this as well. But Peter's a newer subscriber to After Prison Show. He just recently ran across the channel, and he asked me a handful of questions. One of which being about vegans and vegetarians, or certain religious people serving time, and whether or not they get different food. If you're a vegan, a vegetarian, or like a Muslim, you don't eat pork, do those guys eat different than regular prisoners? Is there an option? And the short of it is, yes. You've got what's referred to as kosher trays. You've got what's referred to as common fare. Common fare and kosher trays is definitely reserved for the religious prisoners, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Jewish, different religions, and the way that they go about eating. In any prison that I've ever been in, they respect the prisoner's beliefs. Now, I'm sure there's some prisons that don't. I'm sure there's got to be some places where they don't have this option, this common fare option. And what I've seen with these common fare trays, because this question would go on to ask, is it better than the regular food? And yeah, these guys get tuna fish, boiled eggs. You ain't gonna be getting no tuna fish on the regular trays. They get this soy meat with rice that almost looks like Chinese food. Yes, they definitely eat better. They eat first, they eat better. Common fare is a good thing to be on. The problem is, it's something that's hard to get on. When I was in the jail, first starting my 7-year sentence, I spent 25 months in the jail. I got so sick of the food that I finally wrote a request form to whoever I had to write the request form to. I can't remember who it was, and I said, I have converted to Judaism. I think that's how you say converting to being Jewish. And I said this just so I could get this kosher tray, which was exactly what I was talking about. That soy meat with the rice. There was like Chinese food. You was getting all sorts of peanut butter. They was hooking it up. And it was just that easy while I was in the jail. Just writing a request form saying, hey, excuse me, I'm now Jewish. Boom, I was getting a kosher tray. Guerrero, where's Guerrero at? I got his specialty tray right here. Oh, you best to bring me that tray? I already know what's on there. We got peanut butter and jelly. All sorts of good stuff was coming on that tray. But not every tray was good. There were days when I would get my tray and I'm like, man, what is this? I'm gonna starve in here eating this. Boy, I wish I would have had that regular meat rock tray. Not every tray is gonna be better, but in most cases, they definitely will be. But when I got to prison trying to get that kosher tray or that common fare tray, you had to go to church for 6 months. You had to sign your name down there. It had to be documented. You had to do that for 6 months before you could even become eligible to write that request form. So different places, there were different things that you had to go through in order to get that specialty diet food in the prison. Now, if you didn't go through that, there was what was referred as a bean tray. And you could get a bean tray twice a day, lunch and dinner. You're going through the bean line. You don't want to eat meat rot, you go through that bean line and you're going to get you some watered down pinto beans with some bread and not much else. Maybe an apple. A lot of guys would eat these bean trays just for the protein. A lot of guys would eat these because they didn't want to eat the meat rot. That processed meat was just tearing them to pieces, giving them horrible gas, whatever. But for the most part, those were the specialty food trays that were available. Peter also asked, what is a prison hospital like in comparison to a normal hospital? They're the exact same thing. You know, because if you got something where you got to go to the hospital, they're going to be taking you up off of that prison. Peter also asked, when you were in school before trouble found you, what sort of job did you want to pursue? This is a really good question. Thank you for asking, Peter. Thank you for taking such an interest. I wanted to be a cop, more so a narcotics detective. Ironic, I went the exact opposite way in that regard. I wanted the mustache and everything, man. Legitimately, I wanted to be a detective. I used to watch Law & Order. I was obsessed with that TV show, and I thought that I was good at investigating things. I thought I was good at putting the puzzle together. I might suck at math, and I might suck at school, but one thing about it, I got street smarts. I know what you telling me is a lie. I can see it in your face with your little eye movements. You keep looking over to the left. That's a tell. That's a tell. Or I could have been a professional poker player. I'm made. What you got? Oh, I lost. I'm out. Have you ever met a genius in prison? Prisoners are stereotyped as not the smartest. Are there intelligent people in prison? I assume there are. Absolutely. There definitely are some smart guys who are in prison. Geniuses, I've definitely ran across a few people who were super smart, college educated, book smart, or guys that just really were sharp. I mean, these dudes were sharp, and I couldn't even believe that these dudes were locked up. But you know, it just goes to show you, if you do the crime, eventually you're going to be doing the time. They're going to catch you. You know why? Because Law & Order and their mustaches, the police, they smart. Sometimes. They be catching the bad guys. And surprisingly, smart people can be bad guys too. Now, what's even more interesting about this is, you know, I've met plenty of people who thought they were geniuses. Forget the people who were actually really smart. Yes, they're interesting. They're definitely interesting. Sometimes they're boring, though. Let's talk about the guys who thought they were geniuses, thought that they were smarter than you and you and you and me, and walked around like they just had all the answers. And anytime anything would ever be asked, they're the first person to jump up, button into a conversation, ain't got nothing to do with them. They're lucky they ain't getting stabbed for this, and just, I know the answer to that. It's the Raiders. I'm not even talking about football, man. You better sit down and get out this conversation. Keep writing that smart stuff that you're writing over there. I know you're just writing notes to the gods. You're just trying to get up out of here. You will have quite a few people who think that they just got all the sense. They got all the answers. They like the Google locked up. They are the locked up version of Alexa. Alexa, I know what it is. What do you need? You better sit your dumb ass down. You ain't smart. And you know what I always like to tell these guys, you know, whenever they would get annoying because they would do so quite often, I would always say, man, you know, you think you got all the sense. You think you this smart dude, like this brainiac, like you Jimmy Neutron or something. But guess what? You ain't smart. You know why? Because you sitting here with me. How smart are you for that? If you were smart, you wouldn't have got caught for taking them catalytic converters off of them Chevy Malibus. You dumb. You dumb for that. That was back in 2005. Ain't nobody doing that no more. They're taking copper out of houses now. What is the most creative thing you've seen another prisoner make? I've seen a lot of really creative stuff. Soldering, that's super creative. Fixing stuff. The guys that, you know, you got all sorts of prison hustles. You got your fix-it guys, you got your artists, your tattoo artists. Making a tattoo gun is super creative. That is definitely a work of art. Far outside of just the artwork that will be created with that device, putting one of those things together and getting that thing to run like a well-oiled machine, no pun intended, that's creative. But I've seen all sorts of other things as well, and I think one of the most creative things I ever saw was somebody who made a TV remote control. That was creative. If I can remember correctly, he still had to plug it in. But man, you had a TV remote right there. I've wanted to do a how-to video on that, and I know it would jump out of the gym in terms of YouTube views, but I wasn't that smart. I wasn't. And I don't know, I ain't got the slightest idea how to do it. I might have to watch another YouTube video to try to see if I can figure out how to do it. Peter asked a couple of more questions, but I'm just going to wrap this up with one final question that he asked, which was, have you ever met a person that was paid to go to prison to snitch, like on that TV show 60 Days In? That's a tough one, Peter. That's a tough one. I have never met anybody who legitimately came out and said, I'm here for that. I'm here to snitch. They're paying me for this. I would not put it past any situation where I was ever locked up that there wasn't at least one person who might fit into that wheelhouse. But no, I've never met anybody who, it was known that that's what they were doing. Now, what's interesting is when I was locked up, especially in prison this last time, when snitching was such a thing, there were these rumors, these prison myths that nobody could figure out if these were true or not. That guys had a prison job getting paid 45 cents an hour to relay information back to the gang investigator, to relay information back to the major, to relay information back to the housing unit manager. And you could see some of these guys and you knew they were snitching. You knew they were telling. And these dudes were almost like protected. If you went and did anything to these dudes, it wasn't going to be good for you. Because guess what? They were in the good graces of the housing unit manager, of the gang investigator, and the major, and the investigative team in general. So put hands on these dudes if you want to, because what you know they doing ain't something that you condone. You're going up under the prison. I just wanted to take a little bit of time and respond to some emails and some questions, do a little bit of a Q&A right here. And I do hope that this is something that you guys enjoyed. And if it was, please leave a like and a comment on this video, maybe even asking a question. I'd like to bring the Q&As back. I'd like to answer any of the questions and concerns that you guys might have. So I'm looking forward to that potentially being a thing. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day.